What's up guys, it's Joe from JS Bladecraft. So I have for you for a review sample coming to me from CLOUDHAMMER Steelworks, this custom katana. They actually kind of made it with my color scheme because they know I love red and black, and thank you John from RVA for making this happen. This is a special katana because it's a functional Damascus steel katana. So, but it's also not only Damascus, but it's also Sanmai construction, and it's got a really beautiful wave like box hamon line. It's just a really, and it's a beautiful patterning on the steel. With the Sanmai construction, you can see a laminated line being Damascus steel. It's pretty much like no other Damascus steel blade I've ever seen before coming to you from CLOUDHAMMER Steelworks. So today is officially cutting day. So you're going to see me in this outfit. I'm probably going to be doing about 3 or 4 different cutting videos today. So this is going to be one of them. I don't know. I'm probably another 2 or 3 different swords and knives and stuff like that you're going to see cutting from this video. So here is the cotton Ito, okay? If you look at it right off the bat, okay, it's got a pretty nice shape for the most part. The diamonds are fairly even. They bounce around a little bit here and there, but they're pretty good. Tightness level is excellent. I think is retailing with the functional Damascus, it's about $850. I think $850 this sword with the functional Damascus. But the Ito is pretty good. It's pretty tight for the most part. You can move it about 1 millimeter, but you're getting pretty good Tsukamaki from CLOUDHAMMER in terms of how they tie their Ito up. In terms of the Kashira, the lines are not perfect, but the overlap on the Ito rather than the other way around is more appreciated. It's a small Kashira for the most part. Nice little detail, you know, a little bit muddy here and there, but the castings for the most part, I'm generally happy as long as they're not overly embellished. Coming from CLOUDHAMMER, it's a little bit on the small side. I don't know how it's going to hold up, but right now it's pretty damn tight. Knot is pretty tight. Diamonds are pretty tight. Samigawa, the black Samigawa looks of pretty good quality. There's some pretty, you know, not emperor nodes, but pretty, you know, pretty large nodes over there. There's some fraying coming off the Ito that is to be noted, but other than that, it doesn't look like it's coming apart too much. But I think with extended use, you might see a little bit more fraying considering the fact that I'm seeing it already now. The Fuchi's pretty good. I mean, the normal transition problems with CLOUDHAMMER kind of continues, where you always have one side where you have a little bit of a lip and one side where it's kind of flat. I wish they would kind of fix that up so this way both sides are pretty even. You notice how Ito is not perfectly even on each side here, but for the most part, it's acceptable. It looks good. But again, keep in mind that this is also an $800 sword, and you would want to see these transitions done a little bit better. I like the look of this Suba. This is actually a pretty nice Suba. I believe it's all brass and a blackened brass Suba is what they're giving you here. Details are pretty good, not overly embellished. This is pretty much what I like. It's probably one of my favorite Subas I've seen from CLOUDHAMMER so far. The Manuki's pretty good detail. I would appreciate the Manuki being on the palm side as opposed to the finger side, so you're not fingering it on this side. That's what she said. On this side here, but it would be preferred to be on the palm side, so that should be noted. But again, that is sometimes preference, but most people like it on the palm side. But it's not a Manuki that really, you know, basically protrudes from the Ito too much, so it's not really, doesn't show me any discomfort whatsoever. It's kind of a rattan wrap type of saya. Lacquer, pretty good looking here. I'm not sure if there's bullhorn, but we'll take a look at that. The Sageo is pretty, I retied this myself. It's the Sageo is of pretty good quality, not the best, but it's pretty good. And the Kurogata knob, I think I removed the Shiradomes because they were coming apart, so I literally just removed them. That's why you don't see them. Pretty good painted Kurogata. Nice execution on the rattan wrap. Not perfect. There's a couple little lines and lines here and there, but it's a pretty good attempt. There is some noticeable ripples, but for the most part, it's generally smooth, and there's no bumps that you can physically feel with your hand, so it looks pretty good. In terms of the fit, it fits actually pretty good. I don't feel any rattle whatsoever, okay, when I shake it around. And in terms of basically the fit, there's a thumb push. It also holds it in place pretty well. Nice thumb push, comes out really easily. So actually this one has a really nice fit compared to the other ones I've seen from CLOUDHAMMER. The shape of the Koiguchi mouth is not too bad. Some blackened wood over there. I like to see some more high quality wood, but for the most part, I mean, it's shaped pretty good. And the most important thing is the fact that it fits here, and it kind of just gives you a very nice gliding motion, fits into place. disenlarges very, very easily as well. And there's no rattle. I love it when there's no rattle. Before we get to the highlight of the sword, which is the steel, the habaki is pretty good. It's got a nice little two-tone habaki. I always appreciate having a nice brass habaki, but with some more detail and definition to it rather than the normal, just the very common, you know, plain brass habaki. This has a little bit of spunk and detail into it, so that's always appreciated, and it fits all the theme of the rest of the sword as well. I believe this is a Shinogi Zakuri. Okay, there's a little bit of a Boshi line over here, but it's hard to tell because it's all Damascus. But for the most part, this is the highlight of the sword, is the fact that you have this functional Damascus in Samurai construction and the beautiful, beautiful box hamon that you can see in the pattern. I mean, there's so much really nice eye candy to see on this blade, and I'm really loving how exactly this looks and the light and all the different types of lighting. Given that it's samurai construction, you would hope that basically it is a very resilient but sharp Ha sword. And in Damascus steel, I'm not sure the exact steels that they blended together. They didn't disclose that to me, but I would hope that basically you have a nice hard Ha or edge, and you have a nice soft core. But it is just a very gorgeous thing to look at, this blade. I'm a really big fan of how they did this Damascus and the beautiful box hamon line. A lot of really good eye candy here. I like it a lot. In terms of the weight of the sword, this is a heavier type of sword. There's no bohi, obviously, but it is a more robust type of sword, so I'm hoping it could go through the tatami a little bit easier, being that it has a little bit of a weight on the swing. Okay, as far as the balance POB is probably somewhere around 5-inch mark, right over here. So it's a little bit further away from the handle, and you could feel like it's a little bit front heavy, but not front heavy to the point where it's disturbing. But I think that it's going to hopefully will do a lot of the cutting for you, given that you have the front heavy. So I'm not one to really complain about a sword being a little bit more front heavy, especially if you want to have be able to cut heavy targets where you want to have the front of the sword kind of work with you, and you don't have to like kind of muscle through it all the time and maybe lose control if you're muscling through it too much. I wouldn't say that this is a finesse cutter. Okay, if you're a finesse cutter, this might be a little hard to kind of start and stop. I would say probably this is more of a heavier target type of cutter, because that's just kind of how it feels in the hand. Again, it's not a very heavy sword, but it's also not a light and nimble sword. It's kind of somewhere in between. So I'm hoping this actually would cut tatami and a couple all the other things pretty good. But it's a really good looking sword. But I mean, the Damascus blade and that beautiful red Ito, I would rather the other way around, like have black Ito and red Samigawa, but this is pretty good as well. Love the habaki. Love the Suba, the fittings, everything looks good. So this is probably one of the better fit and finish swords I've gotten from CLOUDHAMMER. Couple little ledges here and there that could be addressed, but nothing that really kind of bites into your hand, so it doesn't really cause me any discomfort. So it doesn't, there's not much to complain about for the most part. Fittings are pretty good, but what you're paying for is this samurai construction functional Damascus. Okay, so this is a hard piece of cardboard here. Let's see how basically it goes through a harder material. I know I've tried it with other spring steel swords, which are a little bit very light, and I really had to muscle through it. So let's see how much pressure I have to put in to try and get through this. I have a little bit of a piece left, so I want to see if I can kind of use it on my cutting day. Not bad. I made it so it kind of falls, so it doesn't really give a little, you know, promote any bend on the blade. This is pretty much the piece that's cutting off here. Didn't take a set, looks pretty good. All right, bottle cuts. This is a heavy Arizona bottle. Now, if you don't really have a good swift cut and a sharp edge, this has a type of material where the sword kind of just bounces off it and just pushes to the side. So let's see if it's sharp enough, let's see if it's robust enough, and if I could get a quick enough swing to kind of get through this Arizona bottle. These are tricky. sliced it right through here. Yeah, it's got some pretty good control over it. You know, it's definitely a heavier type of cutter. It's not really a finesse cutter, but it definitely has some nice impact. So far, it does not take any sets, no edges or rolls or anything like that. It feels pretty good. Not a bad cutting sword. Felt pretty good. It's got a really nice sharp edge on it. I did some honing on this blade a little bit just to bring it back. I didn't reprofile, I just kind of honed it a little bit, and it really brought it to like a really nice razor sharpness type of level, and it feels good in the hand. I mean, it's definitely a heavier than a light cutter, but it's somewhere in the middle, but you pretty much have a lot of control. I think this is a pretty damn good cutter, and you know, it looks good. The Sanmai construction is holding up. Did well with the hard cardboard. No sets, no chips. Let's see how it does with tatami mats. So far, so good. Before I go into heat exhaustion here, because it's really hot, I think it's approaching about 100 in New York right now. This is the Emote tatami mats. Not as abrasive as the used mats. These are new mats. I've been soaking them for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Should have been soaking them a little bit more. So let's see how I can get through these cuts. Now, this being a little bit more of a heavier blade, I'm hoping that it does a little bit of the work getting through the tatami mat. So let's see how it does. Ooh, nice, took right off the top. Give it a haircut. Okay, CLOUDHAMMER Steelworks bringing me this Damascus steel blade. Now, this thing doesn't really have a name. It was kind of just made for yours truly with kind of the color scheme and the fittings and all that stuff. And it's basically just called a functional Damascus steel blade. Damascus steel in general is not, it has been frowned upon because people feel that the art of making Damascus was lost to the times. And some of it may be true, but people are really making some good Damascus blades these days. It's also in Sanmai construction, and you'll see on the screen the sandwich Sanmai steel is, how it's put together in terms of the hard parts and the soft parts, and it just makes for a really resilient, good cutting blade. This fared very well. I don't have many complaints about this blade. The only complaints I would have about this blade is the fact that in the $800 price point, it owns a lot of CLOUDHAMMER's little imperfections in terms of the fit and finish. Now, these are my personal imperfections. It's not a make or break type of thing that will make the sword unusable or fall apart or anything like that. More of just kind of aesthetics, good fit and finish for that price point. It's my personal, that are my gripes. But it is a very good, well put together sword. Great fit and finish. Bullhorn, again, I am not sure if it has bullhorn or not. If it doesn't, it should have it, because that's definitely a safety issue, but it fits really well. Okay, the thumb push disengages. It has just a really good fit and finish. Good for Noto, good for cutting, good for everyday tamashigiri. It's a little bit heavy for the practitioner that wants to practice with it day in and day out. But I don't think it would be a breaker if you're a practitioner and you want to practice with it, because it is a very good sword. You might just get a little tired with the repetitions over and over again, and you may want to be looking for a lighter sword. But if you want a good looking sword with a very amazing looking blade, if you like a lot of eye candy on your blade and you want something that looks pretty but also is very functional and perfectly good for tamashigiri, good hard cutting, then this is definitely a great blade for you and a great option with this functional Damascus. It kind of checks all the bars if you want something that looks good and works great. So none of the cutting affected anything about the fit and finish of the blade more than they were before. Other than that, guys, big recommendation if you like this blade and you like these types of fittings. You could always reach out to CLOUDHAMMER and say you want a functional Damascus. They can build that for you and build it in any type of motif or type of color scheme that you may like. So, good sword, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next sword and knife video, guys, this is CLOUDHAMMER Steelworks. This is a great Damascus steel blade, and it did great, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody. Ciao.